All right, everyone, welcome to Hillel's Options in Kindergarten program. We are so happy that you are joining us or watching this after the fact, watching the recording. We are going to talk a little bit today about what your options are for kindergarten in the Tampa Bay area, all the different options that you have. And then we are also going to talk to you about what kindergarten looks like at Hillel Academy. If you are watching this as a recording after the fact, you can feel free to send us an email at advancement@hillelacademytampa.com, and we are happy to talk to anyone who is interested in our program. We are going to start in a sec with Allison Oakes, who is our head of school, and she will get us started. And then we will also get to hear from our kindergarten teacher currently here at Hillel, and also a lovely lady who runs our after school and camp program, so you can kind of understand all of the things that Hillel has to offer. Go ahead, Allison. That's you. Take it away.
That's my cue. So before I open up our slideshow, while yes, we are going to talk a little bit about Hillel's kindergarten, this really all came out of a common question that both Carrie and I receive when families are touring Hillel. What makes Hillel different than other schools? And it really also expands beyond that to Hillel's a private school. What does that mean in regards to other schools that are a charter school or a public school? And now because of the pandemic, a lot of families are taking a look at virtual schools. And so what we decided was to use our expertise in education to inform our community about the different types of K-12 options that exist in our area. This has become really important, especially in the state of Florida, because the state of Florida is a big school choice state, meaning that the state of Florida has put a lot of financial resources behind the paradigm that parents should choose the schools that make most sense for their children and for their families, and cost shouldn't necessarily be a barrier to that. And so because of that, we see that there are a variety of school options in our community, and families sort of have to figure out what is best for them, what is the best option for their children, because at the end of the day, probably the most important decision that parents make for their children is their schooling. What type of school, where will they go to school, and thinking short-term and long-term as to what their children's lifelong goals could be as it comes to education. So yes, there is a part of this presentation that's about Hillel. What is the kindergarten experience here at Hillel? But really the most important part, the first part, is about the school landscape in the kindergarten through 12th grade environment in Tampa and in the state of Florida. Okay, with that, I am going to open up my share screen and put up a presentation. Okay. I guess, Carrie, you're the only one that would be able to hear right now. Can you see this okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So options in kindergarten. How do I choose the best school for my child? And so what we're going to do today is take a look at the different options that exist in the Tampa Bay area. So there are really 4 predominant options. And within those 4, there's differences. So there's the public, no fee to attend option. There are independent schools, which are synonymous with private schools, where there is generally a tuition in order to attend. A growing segment of the K-12 school landscape are homeschools. And then another growing segment, especially in light of the pandemic and experiences families have had with this, are virtual options. Digging in a little bit deeper, The most common option that most families choose are the local public options. And there are 3 different types of schools within the public K through 12 option. The first one, again, is probably the most common one. And this is the one that most of us on this call are most acquainted with. And that is our local zoned school. Our local zone school is tied to the address at which we live. Many families purchase their homes or choose to lease a home in a particular school zone. So that is the school that their children are assigned to. So this is what many families across the United States are very used to. They choose homes based upon their local zone school. And this is the assignment that their house would give their children for elementary, middle, and high. Along those lines, something to keep in mind is that of those 3 types of schools, elementary schools tend to be the smallest. So in a geographic area, you will find a larger number of elementary schools. Then those elementary schools will feed into a fewer number of middle schools. So maybe there are 5 elementary schools in a geographic zone, and they will feed into 3 middle schools. So some schools, some elementary schools that kids, they went to school together. Now they're split up and they go to different middle schools or no longer with their friends from elementary school. That's possible. And then high school, they feed into a much larger school, and generally there are fewer of them. So let's say there were 5 elementary schools in a geographic zone. Then those 5 feed into 3 middle schools, I apologize. And then those 3 middle schools feed into a single high school in a geographic area. So schools that maybe children went to in elementary school, they were split up for middle school, and then they're finding themselves back in the same school together for high school. What you should know about the local zone school is that it is run by a school board that is elected by the people that live in that area. So it's an elected school board that runs the school system of that area. So in Tampa, Hillsborough County Public Schools has a school board. Pinellas has their own school board. Pasco has their own school board, and they appoint a superintendent. And that superintendent in Hillsborough County is Addison Davis. And then they must follow the rules of the Florida Department of Education. So there are a set of mandates, rules, guidelines, etc., that the Florida Department of Education puts out, and then it is up to the individual school districts to figure out how they're going to meet those mandates, those laws, those rules, those guidelines, etc. A big one is regarding state testing. The Florida Department of Education says we are going to judge our schools based upon how many students get a particular score on the state test, and then we are going to give funding out based upon that information. Related to the local zone school are magnet schools. Now, magnet schools are a little bit different because this provides families options. A family may say, we don't want to go to our local zoned school. Our child is interested in science. Our child is interested in the arts or STEM, whatever it is. And there are schools within schools. So these are known as magnet schools. So let's say elementary school A is a zoned school for a particular geographic area. But elementary A also has something called a STEM academy within it. people that don't live in that zoned school district that want to go to that STEM academy may apply to go to that STEM academy. And after they apply, their name goes into a lottery. And if their name is drawn from the lottery, they can attend that magnet school, the STEM Magnet Academy, even though they don't live in that school district. Something to keep in mind is that the local zoned school will offer transportation if you live usually out of a 2-mile radius. Sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it's a little bit more. If you've been following the news, our local schools districts have had a lot of trouble getting bus drivers. So they've had to manipulate how far out kids have lived in order to make sure that they can pick up the kids that are furthest away. Magnet schools don't necessarily have a bus option. On occasion they will, but they rarely do. If you have chosen and you have been accepted through the lottery to a magnet school, you may be responsible for taking your child to school. The third public option that exists in our area and that has existed in Florida for a long time now, over 15 years, and Florida is really looked at as a model for this, are charter schools. Whereas our zoned public schools and the magnet schools that are located within them are all run by the public school district. So Hillsborough County Public Schools, Pasco County Public Schools, Pinellas County Public Schools, and have their own school board that must follow the mandates that are put out by the Florida Department of Education. Charter schools run independently of the local zone school and the magnet schools. Charter schools are independently run by sometimes a for-profit education company, a not-for-profit education company, or even a group of people that have come together to create a board of directors, similar to what you would find in a private school, to create a public school available to a large geographic range of students free of charge. And so how is it free of charge? In a state like Florida that supports charter schools, children that attend charter schools are considered an FTE, a full-time equivalent. And the state of Florida gives to this charter school a particular amount of money for that child attending that charter school, and they no longer give that money to the public school that the child would have attended. So charter schools are run on state dollars. They are generally smaller than your zoned public school. And a lot of families are attracted to them because you don't have all of the bureaucracy that you would find in the local public school district. It's usually a single school run by a single for-profit, not-for-profit company, or with a board of directors. They have a smaller main office, very similar to an independent school, a private school. So a lot of families are attracted to this option because of those reasons. Additionally, charter schools, similar to magnet schools, may have a mission. Maybe it's a STEM mission, maybe it's an arts mission. A very popular charter school that students from Hillel Academy matriculate to is Brooks DeBartolo Charter School. And their mission is one of collegiate prep, that kids are getting ready to attend college after they graduate from Brooks DeBartolo. So many of them will have a specific mission. Now, what's really important to keep in mind about a charter school, especially with the proliferation of charter schools that are popping up in Florida, is that there is no body that is really overseeing the success of these charter schools. And this is something you may be reading about in the media as well. There are some charter schools that have taken the step to become an accredited body, an accredited school, to receive their accreditation from an outside source, such as SACS. Brooks DeBartolo is such a school. They want to give families considering them the confidence that they check box everything that they would need to be a successful school, to run smoothly, both in their business office as well as in their academic office, and to assure parents that their children are getting a quality education in a sustainable, financially sustainable environment. Sadly, a lot of charter schools do not take this step. So it's really left to the parents to do their homework to ensure that really that a charter school has been accredited and has a positive track record, because there isn't any currently state mandate to oversee or accredit these schools. Charters are also subjected to state-run testing. And that is how school boards do decide, because individual school boards will decide if a school will keep its charter or not. And even if it doesn't, even if it's not accredited, they do have to do state testing. And if the individual school board does believe the state testing is showing that the charter school is a successful model, the charter school may keep its charter. Otherwise, the school board independently may decide we're pulling the charter. This actually happened this past summer. The Hillsborough County Public School System, they met and they chose to pull the charter for 2 or 3 schools, I can't remember exactly, based upon test scores, based upon financial sustainability. And so again, it's really important to do your homework with these charter schools, because you don't want to start at a school and then the possibility exists that the charter will be pulled, and then you will have to find another school for your child. Hillel Academy, us at Hillel Academy, it's really important to us that our families choose the best next step for their children. And while we always think that should be us, we understand that it's not a fit for all families, and that's fine. And we help you with this transition. We do help our 7th and 8th grade families the most as they make this transition, because most of our pre-K families do come to Hillel with the intent of staying through 8th grade. And so very few ask us about what are some other schools. But if a family came to us pre-K going into kindergarten and saying, you know, we just don't think this is the right fit for us. We've had a great early learning experience, but can you help us? We are right there with you. We just want your family and your child to be successful. So in sum, in the public options where there's no fee to attend, you have your local zone school. Perhaps it's a magnet school. It has a theme attached to it. All of that is overseen by the superintendent and the Hillsborough County School Board, or Pinellas School Board, or Pasco School Board. Or there is the option for a charter school, which is also free of charge, run independently from the school board, from the Florida Department of Education. If you are seeking a magnet or charter school, there is a lottery system. You submit your name or your child's name to the lottery. And if their name is drawn, then they have a seat. If it is not drawn, they are generally put on a wait list. So to share a little bit of my own experience with this, a year ago, I moved from one home to another home because I had a child that was going into high school. And I wanted to move in case her name was not drawn in the lottery for a charter school that I was looking at for her and that she was considering. So we moved in case we would have to go to our local zoned school. So that was our first option. And then she applied to 2 charter schools. One of the charter schools she decided she did not want to go to, even though her lottery number was drawn. And the third charter school she was considering, but her name did not get drawn from the wait list until 2 weeks after the start of school. And by that point, she actually made friends and she's really happy in her zones, in the zone school. And it was a good decision for her and for our family. So those are the public options. Now, Hillel Academy is an independent school, and many of you are more acquainted with the term private school. In an independent school or in a private school, there is a tuition to pay in order to attend. Generally, independent private schools are mission-based, just like ours. Our mission is one of superior academic education and the development of a personal Jewish identity. And so families that want their kids to get a really great education and also build a Jewish persona, confidence in their Judaism, or even just to learn about Judaism or to be in an environment where values are explicitly taught, will choose a school such as ours. There are a number of private schools in our area. They are independently run. They have their own school boards, their own trustees. These are generally self-perpetuating boards. That means there's no election, just like in a public school board. Nobody runs for a position to be voted into office. And the Board of Trustees and the CEO, or what we call a head of school, me, work together in concert to move the school forward. And we do that in partnership with our parents. In independent and private schools, parents have much more of a say in what their kids are learning and how they're learning and the best way for them to learn than they will in a much larger public institution. A school like Hillel Academy, we really believe that our children become the best that they can possibly be by working in partnership with parents. So parents can easily meet with the head of school. The parents can easily meet with their teachers and reach out and have conversations about their children's learning. My daughter had a test given on Yom Kippur, and I was very upset about this. And I reached out to the teacher and the principal with an email asking if we could talk. And I am still waiting today to receive a message back. This is something that some parents are okay with, and others want to be part of the process. Independent schools, private schools tend not to take state funding. I'm going to circle back to that in just a second. And as such, they're not subjected to state requirements such as high stakes testing and preparation like you will see in public schools. Public schools, based upon how students do on tests, will receive funding and bonuses. And so because of that, very often schools find themselves in the position of having to make sure their kids do really well on that state test. Independent schools are not beholden to that state test, and therefore will tell you, including me, that we give our teachers a lot more flexibility to identify the individual differences in their students and to provide an education that works best and allows them to move forward and succeed without being beholden to a test. Now, in the state of Florida, there is state funding available to private schools. And this is called the Florida Empowerment Scholarship. It also goes by the name Step Up. In Florida, the legislature here in Florida has decided that families really get to choose what type of school their children go to. And if they want their children to go to a private school, that funding should help make it possible. So, dependent on a family's financial circumstances, they may qualify for state funding in order to go to a private school. Now, at Hillel Academy, we accept this state funding, but it doesn't cover the full tuition. And so, as such, families may decide, oh, with that state funding, we can make up the difference. Or a family will say, we still can't make up the difference and we want to participate in the variable tuition program, which is a sliding scale tuition program we have here at Hillel, or the TIP program. And the TIP program is a new program that we put into place for families that fall in a combined income of 150 to 300,000. Maybe a private school education is still just a bit out of reach, but with a little bit of support can make it happen. So one of the big things to ask yourself, similarly to charters in independent schools, is the school accredited? Is there an outside body that comes in and rates the school on a variety of standards and benchmarks that every school should have in order to ensure that the children in that school are getting a good education and that the business side of the school is run adequately? Just last week, I learned that our state of Florida, and for those of you that have lived in this state for a little while, this probably won't come as a surprise. In the state of Florida, there are about 2,500 private schools. And of those 2,500 private schools, 145 of them are accredited. 145 of them only have an independent body that comes in with a set of standards and benchmarks, checking to make sure that the school is crossing every T and dotting every I. That accrediting body here in the state of Florida is FCIS, the Florida Council of Independent Schools. Hillel Academy is part of FCIS. FCIS is also part of a much larger network known as the National Association of Independent Schools. And FCIS is one of 21 accrediting bodies that is also part of the International Council of Independent Schools. So that is something that you want to take a look into when you're checking out schools for your child. A school option that is growing in popularity are homeschools. And actually the data shows that while there is still a small number of families that are choosing homeschools, this is the quickest growing option. In homeschools, there are generally three options. They are independently run, so it's not part of the public school system. It's not part of a private school system. It could be a small group that have come together to say, we want our kids to learn from us. Sometimes it is a parent that is educating their child, and that's known as a home-based homeschool. And then sometimes there's a cooperative. So either a group of families have come together and one of the parents will teach the children of the group of families that have come together, or those group of families, they hire a teacher to come in to teach the kids. Very similar to that, the one-room schoolhouse model from ages ago. And sometimes these homeschools will work independently of each other, but they come together for social experiences and field trips. So there are a variety of options for a family that may want to homeschool their children. Homeschools have grown in popularity in the past couple of years because some families have come together to create their own little bubble amongst each other because of the pandemic. And many homeschools come to be because a family maybe says an independent school, even a religious-based one, is not the right fit for their family, but having religion in their child's school is very important, and so they choose to do it on their own at home. The final type of school, which again, because of the pandemic has really grown in popularity, is a virtual school. And there are state-run virtual schools. This means a child does all of their learning on a computer. And I have to say that sometimes virtual schools are a misnomer, in that a lot of parents have in their mind that all the child is doing is interacting with a computer and computer software. And that's actually not quite correct. Generally, they're actually part of a virtual class. Kids that are in other places, they have to attend their classes at particular times. There's also a hybrid. They attend classes at particular times with other kids and a live teacher. It's just all done on the computer. And then there's sometimes that they work independently. So you'll find a hybrid model there. Florida Virtual Schools, FLVS, follows that model. And then individual counties, Hillsborough County, Pasco County, they each have their own virtual models that run very similarly, where kids attend a class with a teacher in person, but on the computer, and then they have independent work to do. The teacher may also require the student to do one-on-one with them or by phone. So that's part of the virtual experience. There are also independent virtual schools. So if any of you watch TV, a for-profit virtual school that is national that you may have heard of is called K12. K12 is a for-profit virtual school that serves the entire nation. However, they do have options that are free. So just like private schools in the state of Florida, parents that choose virtual can choose the Florida Department of Education, FLVS option, or they can choose their county's option, Hillsborough or Pasco, or there is funding for them to attend K12, which is a national choice. So families, as you can see in the state of Florida, really have a lot of options at their disposal, and some options where the state of Florida in private and in virtual choices have said, we will give families funding in order to attend these schools that maybe typically they would not have been able to afford. So I hope that helps you understand a little bit more of the landscape of options for kindergarten. What I want to share with you now is how Hillel Academy falls into this landscape. As I shared with you, we are an accredited school, K-12 school. We're accredited by the Florida Council of Independent Schools. Every 5 years, we have to go through a lengthy set of standards and benchmarks that we complete the report, and then an outside body comes in and makes sure, and then they make sure that everything that's included in that report is in fact happening here at Hillel. And what sets us apart in the private school landscape is our mission. Our mission is to provide a superior education that encourages a love of learning and a strong Jewish identity. And I would say up to that strong Jewish identity part, that probably a lot of schools in our area would say that. And what really sets us apart is that we provide a Jewish environment. And many of you that are on this, I've taken you on a personal tour with your family, and something to know is that our school is open to non-Jewish families too. We have open enrollment. About 10% of our population is not Jewish. And what we find is that families are very interested, if they're not Jewish, in their children learning the Old Testament in its given language. We're one of the few schools that does offer a dual language program starting in kindergarten. It actually starts in preschool, but if they're coming here starting in kindergarten, many don't start until a few years later. And as you know, the earlier you start a second language, the better it is for the child. And our values, our culture of chesed, our culture of kindness, and how we go about our day in interacting with our families and with our students and with each other. So non-Jewish families are very much attracted to Hillel Academy, and about 10% of our population is not Jewish, and close to 30% is interfaith, which really mimics what's happening in our nation as a whole. And then within Judaism, we have just Jewish to ultra-Orthodox. So we have a really nice, diverse population from a variety of countries, a variety of languages. And because we've made a commitment to our families to make Hillel Academy as affordable as we possibly can, we still have to pay our teachers, we still have to keep the lights on. We really do our best to meet families where they are financially, whether they get the Florida Empowerment Scholarship or not. And we have 3 pillars that really direct all the work that we do. We believe in individualized academic education, understanding where each of our children are and teaching them from that point forward, so each child can grow into their own fullest potential. We believe in the development of a personal Jewish identity. Like I shared with you, we have a diverse population. Some students are not Jewish and they are learning about Judaism from the academic perspective. Some families are here for the religious aspects of Judaism. Some are here for the cultural aspects of Judaism. Some of our Jewish families really take this as an opportunity that this is the only time their children will be in the majority. That when December comes around, they're learning about Hanukkah and they're not inundated with Christmas. So these are some reasons why a Jewish family may choose us. And then our final pillar is that of a culture of chesed, a culture of kindness. We believe that our kids need to grow up to be kind. And the way that we do that is role modeling kindness for them. And we see it every day in our community. Part of our culture of kindness is the community that we build together. Many of you are in preschool, and if you continue with us through Hillel, you will be sitting at, and you won't really believe where the time went, but you'll be sitting at the bar and bat mitzvot of the kids that your kids are in preschool with now, because this community just grows tighter as you get older. I'm a parent that is living that now. My oldest is in 9th grade. She has graduated from Hillel, and the bonds that she made here, albeit I wish they were more in person and not through their phones, but that is how they keep in touch with each other, and they continue to keep in touch with each other. And every year we watch as our graduates are getting accepted to universities and how they choose each other to be each other's roommates, because these bonds stay forever. Okay, it is my distinct honor to introduce at this time Miss Angela Allman. Miss Angela, who is our kindergarten teacher. She's going to tell you a little bit of a typical day in kindergarten at Hillel, but you can also make the assumption, outside of the Hebrew and Judaic studies and the Cambridge program, that this is very similar to a typical day in kindergarten any place. One of the things that you may want to consider is that when you're asking questions at the conclusion of this, is that Miss Angela is unique in that she has been at Hillel now for 2 years. She's an extraordinary educator. And prior to being at Hillel, she was in a charter school kindergarten. And so she has experiences from both the private and the public side of things that she'll share a little bit with you here, but that you can also dig deeper in with her after. So it is now my time to stop talking and turn it over to Angela.
Thank you very much, Allison. Hello, everyone. As Allison said, my name is Angela Allman. The students call me Miss Angela, and I'm going to share a typical day in kindergarten. And I say that lightly because really there's nothing typical about kindergarten except for the fact that it's different all of the time. And even as I say that, I will let you know that we have a daily schedule which we follow, and each portion of the daily schedule has a nice routine to go along with it. We like to keep the students following some sort of routine because they know what to expect when they come into school each day, and they know what's coming next. So having that routine builds a comfort level, and then it builds confidence. And with that confidence boost, we see improvement in behavior, social skills, learning styles, learning habits. We see better retention. So it all starts with that confidence, and that also helps with independence as well. So very routine in kindergarten, but we also know that we expect anything and we adjust for everything. So we may have a nice routine in place, but the weather changes or the moods of the kids change, or there's a special event coming up. So we have to adjust that schedule, but we're always good about telling the students about that as well, so that they are aware, you know what, boys and girls, there's a lot of energy in the room today. So sitting in your desk and working on a writing project probably isn't a good fit right now. So we're going to switch and we're going to do science first and end the day with writing because we have the energy for that right now. So letting the kids see that changes happen, it helps them adjust to changes even better. And we realize that change is good. So with a typical day in kindergarten here at Hillel, they come on in, they put their stuff away, and they head right to work. And the work they do when they arrive is usually an enrichment or a review of the stuff that we've already taught in previous lessons, so that they get a chance to practice all of the skills that they're learning. It's not just a lesson here and there and then they never see it again. They're seeing it over and over and over again throughout the entire school year. And then we get started with a cleanup, and we do some songs to work on the days or our letters or words or any sort of topics, and just to move our bodies. We do our Pledge of Allegiance, and then we have a nice greeting time where the students are learning to make eye contact and start conversations, give everyone a nice warm greeting. And then we move into a sharing portion where, again, they're practicing those conversation skills. They're taking turns, they're working on speaking, they're working on listening, and they have that moment to share, be social, so that they are prepared to now get to work. We start our language arts block with a morning message, and we do the same thing all school year long. So they watch me write the message, and we write about words we know and topics we're covering. And then they search for things in the message, and they show me every day what they're learning and retaining. And by the end of the year, they're writing the message for each other, and I'm just reading it along with them. So it's nice to see the pride they have as we go along, that they're first reading it. First of all, they don't know what the message says, then they're reading it, and then they're doing the writing on their own. Then we take some breaks in the day for snack and recess. We also have our specials, art, music, PE. We then head over to our wonderful Hebrew class. We're in Hebrew class. They're doing, as Allison mentioned earlier too, they're learning about the Jewish celebrations, the history, the holidays, customs, and traditions, while they're learning to speak and write and read the Hebrew language. So it's very fun to see that progress as well. And then I will try to, pull in whatever more Sylvia is doing in her Hebrew class. We will tie in some activities during the kindergarten day as well. So it's not just, separate blocks of learning all day long. There's always a tie-in. The kids can see how reading and writing applies to math and how math is working in Hebrew and all of that stuff. So they see the connections throughout the day. We take a much needed lunch and recess break, and then we wrap up our day with math, science, and social studies. So during math, we're covering anything from number fluency, addition and subtraction, 2 and 3D shapes, measurement, sorting, graphing, classifying, all of that. and really, really learning to be comfortable with numbers so that things like addition and subtraction are just a quick, easy thing to do. And they have a good base to move on to first and second grade and really feel confident in their work. Science, we cover everything from how to be a scientist, using scientist tools, what it means to be a scientist, doing some STEM challenges using science, technology, engineering, and math. We also talk about animals and plants and matter and gravity and motion and all of that stuff. So it's a lot of hands-on experiments and videos and movement and recording. We do a lot of recording in science too. They have to be a good scientist and get that recording done. And social studies is the time of day where kindergarten is learning about those social skills that are so important that they practice all day long. We talk about sharing. We talk about what it means to have good character and what it means to be a good citizen and how we can do that all of the time at home, school, out in public, while we're also learning about the world around us, different United States symbols, different countries, landforms, maps, and globes, and just learning about ourselves and everything that make us unique and special and learning to work together. Then we wrap it up with a good, how did we do today and a story and pack up, and we leave the classroom with a very large smile on our faces. And we come back the next day for a repeat performance with all new supplies and activities. And that is a day in kindergarten.
Miss Angela?
Yes.
I have to ask you.
Yes.
I am able to identify all of these children except the child all the way to the right.
That is Lily. That is, they're working on a Math About Me project there. So everyone traced their own bodies, and then we used various numbers that we're going to see all year, and we decorated those with a cupcake that had 5 candles to show our age, the month that we were born, the date that we were born. So we're working on calendar and just general numbers in there, and they had a great time doing it.
And these pictures are all in the hallway. So even if we don't see them in their classroom, we see the kiddos in the primary hallway.
Yeah. So yes.
Okay. So thank you, Miss Angela.
You're welcome.
Miss Julie, will you please tell us what families can expect from a school beyond the classroom? Now, we are going to share a little bit of what Hillel does beyond the classroom, but really a lot of schools have similar opportunities that go beyond the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. At whether it's Hillel or anywhere, having a robust after school program and summer camp, which is my personal favorite thing in the entire world, is really helps it's providing care, but it's also helping your kids to be well-rounded. In school, they're doing some experiential learning, but that's what after school enrichment academies and summer camp is all about. So at Hillel in particular, after school, some of your kids might be in ballet and karate now. And when they get into the older grades, they're able to do things like chess and dance. And we have soccer and tennis that are coming up soon. We are going to have things like basketball and baseball and Amazing Race, all different activities that kids are able to, you're still learning. I call secret learning. And it's through experiences. So they're going to do art and they're going to throw paint at a bullseye, and so they're working on trajectory and science. And so in our summer camp, we spend the morning doing different choices for the children. And in the afternoon, we're going to do really super fun camp activities, kickball, talent show, so that you get the best of both worlds in a summer camp enrichment environment.
Miss Julie, I'm sorry, can you help me?
Sure.
The 3 things that are on here, they look very strange and new to me. Can you tell me why?
Yeah, so they are brand new, actually. Literally in the last, I'm going to say few months, brand new. So Hillel has had after school, what we call clubs. But we're taking it to the next level and making it an enrichment academy so that at 3:15 and at 4:15, your kids are going to be able to do different things. And at summer camp, we have preschool camp this year. Maybe your children were in it, but we have never done summer camp. So summer camp is brand new, so exciting. And it will be from 8 to 3 for our our kids all the way from preschool up through 8th grade. And they're going to have all of these different experiences. And then if you get really hot outside, we won't have to worry about that next year, because we are going to have a gym, a brand new gym, and where we'll be able to have indoor classes, we'll be able to do theater, have events there, so you can host your next birthday party. Get excited about that.
Thank you, Miss Julie. I really appreciate it. And yes, this is all very exciting. For those of you that know us pretty well, Miss Julie, while she's a parent here, her background is in fundraising, and she was a camp director for a number of years. And we've brought her on to really expand our program and what we offer, not just to Hillel students, but our entire community. And the gym and event center that you see pictured on the bottom, that is being made possible because we have just had a $2.5 million donation made, and we will finally, after 51 years of kids begging for an indoor gym, have an indoor gym, event space, and a couple of studios for karate, for dance, and for other activities. So Miss Carrie, I
Yes.
turn it over to you.
So for our parents who are live on the call right now, if you guys just want to stick around for a second, I will stop the recording before I have you guys put on your video. But for anyone who is joining us virtually, the first step, if you are interested in learning more about Hillel, is to come in for a tour. Allison and I really make sure to give you a big chunk of time, about an hour and a half, to come in, ask all your questions, tour the campus, anything that you want to know about Hillel, we are there for you. So
Carrie, can I just add on to that? I'm not so sorry to interrupt you, because we know that this is what I do, but I do want to add on that it's not just for families to ask all the questions, but it's really important that we establish that relationship really early, because we want families to feel confident that they are choosing a school where leadership of the school has gotten to know them and can be part of the process to make sure that this child can be successful at Hillel.
yes, and we want to make sure to give you the time to come in, so we have a good amount of time to sit and really get to know each other and make sure that we would all be a good fit. So the best way to get in touch, you can visit our website, HillelAcademyTampa.com. Hillel is Hillel, or you can send me an email. I didn't introduce myself, I probably should. I'm Carrie Baker. I am the admissions director here at school. You can also send me an email at advancement or admissions or K Baker, any choice that you have. I have many email accounts. So all of those, so do admissions at HillelAcademyTampa.com, and we will get you set up to come in. So thanks for joining us, and we hope to see any of our virtual viewers soon.